If you want the best boxing radio show on the internet, Leave It in the Ring Radio has got to be one of your first choices. It airs every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. David Duenez and Gabriel Montoya do a great job. Earlier in the week, I had a chance to talk to Gabriel. David also joined me this past week as well to talk some boxing. We reviewed the Ortiz Josesito Lopez fight. We look ahead to Canelo Álvarez, and we talked Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao, and much more with friend of the show, David Duenez, on the Sports Buffet podcast.
Always a pleasure for me to have Dave Duenez on the Sports Buffet podcast. He's from Leave It in the Ring Radio. You can hear the show live every Thursday, but you can also go back and hear some archived editions as well. And Dave, I know a big talking point last night was the whole Victor Ortiz Josesito Lopez fight last week, and I interviewed your co-host Gabriel Montoya this past week too, and we talked about Ortiz, and I felt like I was kind of hard on him after I read what you guys talked about. The quitting seemed legit from what I read.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame the fans, though. You know, I mean, it's always the last impression that kind of sticks in your mind. But at the same time, like my co-host Gabriel has mentioned before, is when have we seen Victor in that fight? They're entertaining fights. I mean, did he turn us off with the Madonna thing? Absolutely. Did he turn us off with the Mayweather fight, with the headbutts and the meltdown by trying to get Floyd several kisses on the cheek? Absolutely. But before those things, those incidents happened in those fights, they were entertaining. You know, he was trying to win. Even with Josesito Lopez, you could really see that he was trying to keep his spot there. You know, he was really trying to prove that he's the more deserved and credible 147 pounder. You know, and I think he was really trying to set it up where he was letting Lopez know that you moved up in weight and now you moved up to fight the big boys. And it just didn't pan out the way he would have wanted. He got his jaw broken in two different spots. They got a titanium plate in his jaw now, and now they're waiting back for him to be recovered. You know, they're looking 6 to 8 months out. But their options are still out there. Now, whether or not he's going to get one of the big fights, I say, let's be fair, Josesito Lopez is the winner. He's the guy that should be getting more to say of who he's going to fight next. But that's just not the way things are planned out in boxing, unfortunately, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, did it seem like to you it was more of Ortiz wanting to, was Danny Garcia even going to let him go back out even if he had wanted to?
For a minute, I think the whole confusion was that here was a kid that was getting caught and getting locked by a guy that supposedly didn't have punching power. You know, and I mentioned this last week with our fight prediction on the fight, was that sometimes, not all the time though, when a fighter moves up in weight, when a fighter is tall and lanky, that starts himself to be more competitive and have more of an advantage or an edge when they shrink themselves to a smaller division. Well, when they fight and say, you know what, enough is enough, I'm going to move up, or maybe my body may be able to just be a little bit more active or stronger at, that's when we find out whether or not there is punching power, you know, and I think we saw that with Lopez, and now just with that, I think he repeatedly watched that fight with Jesse Vargas where he saw that he let that fight slip out of his hands. So this was a different type of Josesito Lopez. It wasn't really the Josesito Lopez that a lot of us were expecting. I mean, I did expect a tough fight. I just didn't expect him to take the punches from Victor Ortiz that well. So going back with the corner, with Danny Garcia, I think that not only was their fighter stumped, they were a little stumped themselves, and when Victor's mouth was hanging out, the first thing that popped to my mind is this guy's tired. Later on, we find out that his jaw's been broken in two different spots. So I wouldn't blame Danny Garcia thinking, let's allow him to go out there because we want him to go out of his shield, because there's no way of really telling when a jaw is broken. I mean, you could see it was swollen up, but it's the fight game.
He bows out now of the Canelo fight by not winning for one. Who do you see taking that spot?
Only Golden Boy knows who's going to be taking that spot, and only Golden Boy knows how to disappoint the fans when it comes to anticipation. Obviously, we've been very critical of Golden Boy, and I think rightfully so. How many times has Golden Boy put himself in this type of position where they're at now? This is not the first time we've seen them put in their fighters in with a tough contender and kind of overlooking what's at stake there. With the whole Canelo thing and signing Victor Ortiz to September 15th bout, it really, to me, it was almost like a failure of setting themselves up. And I don't know, does it scare them off to try to put in a competitive fight for Saul Alvarez on the 15th? I would have to say, yeah. I think the matchmakers have been dropping the ball numerous times, even though there's times they do get it right, but the wrongs just outweigh. They just fill up the household more than the rights. So I'd love to see Austin Trout get a shot at him. I'd like to see, Aristotle Lara, who's fighting at least tonight. Carlos Molina, the kid that gave fits to James Curtin. There's a lot of notable names out there, but I don't see that happening. I really see maybe Golden Boy going to pull another fast one and either get a retired fighter and unretire him and bring him into the ring, or bring up a smaller guy that's going to be feasible, that probably has a good name for Canelo, that the casual fans they're not going to be aware of it. They're just going to be like, oh, cool, Canelo's get back into the ring and it's on pay-per-view.
Who do you think was being handled more with kid gloves, Chavez Jr. or Canelo? And I say, I use that past tense because if Chavez Jr. is going to fight Sergio Martinez on September 15th, he has definitely raised the bar for himself.
Little by little, if we talk about a year ago, and you talk to, the boxing heads or Mexican fans, Canelo looked a more likable guy because he had the workmanship behind him. Chavez was the silver spoon kid, had the rumors, not rumors, but, was reported out of his camps and other people that have worked with him. He's a lazy, rich kid. But he's definitely stepped it up. I mean, we have seen improvement. There's no denying that. But, those improvements are very subtle. Are they elite improvements? We're only going to find out with Sergio Martinez. Canelo, he's a kid that every time he comes in, he does look much, much better all the time. But then again, he's against, out of prime oppositions or much smaller men. Same thing with Chavez. So to me, there's still almost, it's like they fluctuate, it's like a clock sinking, plunging, and it goes up and down. That's exactly what these two kids are to me at this moment. Until one of them proves otherwise and step it up. And, a lot of the times, too, we do blame fighters for not taking the step up. But at the same time, we have to look at the overall, their management, the promoters. When we had Nonito De Niro on Thursday night, he made that pretty much clear. Sometimes you want the big fight. Sometimes you want the fights that are going to bring out the greatest from you. But if a manager and another manager, they don't see eye to eye, the fight's not going to happen. If a promoter doesn't like another promoter, the fight's not going to happen. It really ends up being out of the hands of the fighter.
Does Floyd Mayweather fight again this year?
I don't see why not. 90 days doesn't take a whole lot. I know a lot of his fans think that it's going to take a whole lot of it, but he's a professional. We got to remember that he was on the retirement for quite some time. I believe it was a whole year off, or maybe a bit more. I can't really remember.
Right.
90 days is not a whole lot. Is he getting those mile runs that he's used to? Is he getting those after midnight workouts? No, it's jail. And what he's doing, he's having a lot of time to think, and at the same time, he's having a lot of time of reminiscing of what he could have done and what he shouldn't have done. So to me, there's two things that can happen with the kid. Either we find out he's really weak-minded and he falls apart after he gets out of jail, or he's strong-minded and he understands he makes adjustments and he comes out with a game plan. Life is too short, and sometimes when we make mistakes as human beings, we either learn the hard way or we learn the easy way, and sometimes when we get ourselves in predicaments that are hard way, that should be the last one. That should be the last jump for us to try to be a daredevil, A sane person would say, you know what, I'm not going to do that again. But this is boxing, and fighters, I've always said this, you got to be a little crazy to enjoy getting punched in the face.
With that being said, who would you pick as Floyd's opponent if he fights before the end of the calendar?
It's hard to say. I mean, can you blame 90 days? That means 90 days he hasn't really got that regimen. He's going to have to get back in form. He's going to have to get back into that rhythm. Do we press for a top elite opponent? Unfortunately, that's what we expect of a guy that claims he's the greatest of all time. And that's what we expect a guy that does have great technical sound boxing skills. But shouldn't be mad at him if he decides, no, I'm not going to do that because I just got out of jail and did 90 days and I had to recoup myself and get myself back into a rhythm because, who's to say that rhythm of 90 days didn't mess with him? So he has to come back and reform himself. So I wouldn't be upset in whoever he decides to take, but it just can't be no slouch. It can't be a C-plus fighter. I would say it would have to be a high B-level fighter who would be in an eagle's eye view. And right now, I'm not really sure. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of fans are going to have to sit back and look at. I would have to sit back and look at. But, I mean, Robert Guerrero, I know a lot of people wouldn't want to see that. He's moving up, and he's actually doing something that, would be the second Mexican-American to win a title in a four-weight division. If he's successful against his fight in July 28th against Adian, I can't remember his last name, why not? Why not make that fight happen? Since he's waiting for the bigger fights out there.
Yeah, two guys I don't see Floyd ever really fighting, in my opinion, would be Peterson and or Berto, just because Floyd takes such that hardline stance on, clean fighters. I just don't see him getting in the ring with either of those two, if it was ever going to happen anyway, which I don't think. I think him and Berto are both managed by Al Heyman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're both managed by Al Heyman, but I think that, yeah, they're, the only thing is that even with Peterson and Berto, we got to remember that they were, they were caught and by the Nevada testing. So right now they got a much bigger opponent to face and to deal with because we still haven't really found out what is the repercussions of what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, and another guy, just out there thinking outside the box. I don't think Amir Khan would probably be a fight that happens before the end of the year, but who knows? And I see Floyd, if he wanted to take on somebody, I would see him almost taking on somebody at the end of the year, like when he fought Arturo Gatti, because I don't think anyone in this whole world thought Arturo Gatti was going to beat Floyd Mayweather. So I see Floyd Mayweather getting a Floyd Mayweather type matchup, like you said.
Yeah, I think so. I think if anything, people are just going to be more curious. I can tell you right now, whoever he decides to fight after he gets out of jail, that's going to be the event itself. Is Floyd Mayweather. They're going to make it a much more bigger deal. They're going to pan it out. They're going to play it out to be like, when Mike Tyson, but the only thing is this was 90 days. But to some of his fans, 90 days is almost 3 years to them. So that, to me, is just going to be the more overall event of, Floyd Mayweather goes to jail, he comes out, is he the same guy? We don't know. Which we do know, but that's the way they're going to market it.
Final topic, and I got to give you some big-time credit on this one because you came on the podcast and called it. You called Bradley over Pacquiao. I don't know if I would say it was, the most legitimate win ever, but, I mean, hey, a prediction's a prediction. What did you see in the fight?
Watching it the first time, I definitely had thought that Manny was far ahead on those scorecards. But going back and, I even put it on my Twitter and Facebook, I was disappointed on the decision. I never said it was a robbery. I didn't get historical like a lot of fans did. But I was, upset because this is the sport that we love, and we support it and we back it up to the fullest. And you don't want to give any more ammunition to the casual fans, the guy that only pays for a fight for what's out of 2 years and, has the audacity to say, oh, this is why I don't watch boxing. You want your sport to be able to flourish and do right by you because you do right by it. So after watching it again, and I watched it over, I watched it about now, I think 8 times over. I got to tell you, it was a lot closer than what a lot of people were looking at. A lot of the punches that Manny was throwing didn't land. I even said that on our radio show. There was a lot of missed punches. I thought that, if anything, the judges were scoring one big punch from Manny Pacquiao, but they weren't scoring any of the body shots or combinations that Bradley was doing. But that even being said, I still had Manny up on points. I think I had him either 3 points up from Timothy Bradley. But, you know, that's the thing with boxing is that, you know, we had the president of the Boxing Promoters Association talking about cleaning up judging, getting the right officials, teaching these judges how to judge, to judge a fight correctly, score a fight correctly. I mean, it's just a lot of things right now in boxing. There's a dark age of it, which is always in those ages, but it's now more so where it's more rapid. It's not like back in, maybe even 10 years ago where the promoters were able to get away with a lot of stuff because it was on print. So there was only a certain amount of people that were able to be able to catch what was going on in the sport of boxing. Now we are in the internet, we're in this viral age. Things travel immediately fast. So hopefully that the promoters and the commissioners and the other people, the guys that wear the suits behind the scenes, they're kind of getting shook a little bit because this is just starting to get out of hand.
Do you see a rematch, or do you see both guys going a separate way for their next fight?
I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch, but I wouldn't want to see it right away. I think that both guys should take a break from each other and just kind of go elsewhere just for the moment. Obviously Timothy Bradley wants the rematch because there's a lot of money involved there, and Bob Arum, Top Rank, he would do a fantastic job of selling the fight again, but it's too early and it's too soon. That wound is still open to the casual fans, not to the hardcore boxing fans. We've kind of got over it, and the hardcore boxing fans, and these are the guys I'm talking about that go and watch the fight 3 or 4 or 5 times, regardless if there's controversy. They go back and watch the fight just repeatedly, just to watch it, because that's the things that we kind of do. To us, it's like, hey, yeah, let's do a rematch. Let's really make it more clear who's the winner of the fight. But for the casual fans, the guys that really honestly put the money in our sport, the superstars and the glamour people that come out and support our sport, I say they won't do it right now immediately. They're going to need something to just really take that bad taste out of their mouth. So I see both the guys going somewhere else. I mean, Timothy Bradley right now, Josesito Lopez moving up 147, and we've been able to get a stoppage over Victor Ortiz. That's a great candidate. Here's a Mexican kid out of Riverside that is going to come forward, that he always entertains every time he steps in the ring, and you know that Timothy likes guys that like to come forward and put pressure. So that'd be a fantastic fight. Manny Pacquiao, where does he go? I don't know. I know there's talks of Marquez 4. There's some people that are interested. There's some people that are not. Me personally, really don't care where he goes at the moment. I say he needs some rest time because regardless of what people think, Manny is slipping, and we saw that too on that fight with Timothy Bradley. There was some slippage there.
Well, I don't need to see Manny and Marquez 4 right now because, granted, I think the first 3 fights have been good, but, what are we going to do? Fight until Marquez wins legitimately on all the cards?
That's pretty much what it looks like. There's got to be, I think that's what more or less what people want. Guys like us, we want a competitive fight. I've seen it 3 times. Don't really care for it. It doesn't intrigue me. To tell you the truth, the third one didn't either, but it was a great fight. It was a competitive fight. The 4th time, I just don't look at it that, to me, if Marquez was to win, if he was to win this 4th time around, it could be the strong possibility this was a DF decision.
Bradley Cotto? Could that happen if Cotto moved down?
I'd love to see that fight. I think that's styles make fights, and we would see definitely both guys mixing it up. We'd see both guys engaging. You got 2 IQs in boxing stepping in the ring. That's a fan-friendly fight altogether right there.
Well, and the other thing too is, in your opinion, has Timothy Bradley become a pay-per-view a pay-per-view draw off this win, or is he? Can he still fight an HBO and a Showtime fight and it be, can that still happen, or is he a pay-per-view fighter strictly 100% now?
You know what? I've been asked that already, and I got to go back and mention that that's not the way it works in boxing, unfortunately. I mean, when Oscar De La Hoya fought somebody and he lost to them, did they become an automatic superstar? No. Sometimes what they had to do is go back to HBO and just be a main event. Right now with Timothy Bradley, I think that with the casual fans, really, and that's why I say, they're more of the meat of our sport in terms of paying out, dishing out the money, because they're the ones that were going to come out and fill up that whole pay-per-view and buy. Would they pay for it? I don't think they would. Like I said, they left Timothy Bradley's fight with Manny Pacquiao, but both of them, not just Timothy, they left a bad taste in their mouths. Let me take that back. Let me rephrase that. The judges left a bad taste in the casual fans' mouth. So would they come out to support a Timothy Bradley fight? I say absolutely not. Timothy's got to go back. He's got to understand that you can't become a superstar overnight. It has to be consistent. Manny Pacquiao was not on pay-per-view automatically. He was consistent. He was fighting the best, and he was giving us great fights. That's why he's become the superstar. Floyd Mayweather just captured our imagination. Kid that didn't win a gold in Olympics or nothing like that, but he was active, and he came out, and we saw the skills. We knew the level that this kid was going to have and what he was going to blossom to. And, even at that time, there was more pushing, and there was more in your face in the public for the mainstream media for Floyd's time. Times now are just a bit different, so they have to really do a numerous amount of different type of work for Timothy Bradley to make him a pay-per-view star.
Dave, always fun for me to talk to you. Tell people real quick when and where and what not to hear. Leave it in the ring.
Every Thursday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Thursday night on Leave It in the Ring.
All right, Dave, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you very soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.